I say, just fail. I don't care if you get good shots. I just want to see you do what you're doing nicely now. Stuff will start to come together, whether it's with a training aid or not. And let's see you flourish from being playful. Miss on purpose. Hit it on the toe on purpose. Hit it on the heel on purpose. Top it on purpose. Chunk it on purpose. Hit it skinny on purpose. Okay, if you can do all those things, getting to the middle of the face is like, oh, I can do everything around getting to the middle of the face. If I can do that, I can get to the middle of the face more often. And there's a playful way to develop your skill. But that's not what adults want to hear. They want to hear, oh, okay, if I just get my left wrist perfect every single time, I'm going to hit every shot perfect. No, you're not.
Hello, it's Mitch Tarr, CEO and founder of Zin Marketing, Inc. Today, we are talking to Martin Chuck of tourstriker.com. This is a great success story about building a personal brand and making yourself larger than life, and on developing products based on customer feedback and paying attention. So pay attention. Good morning, Martin. How are you today?
Hey, Mitch. Good to be with you. I'm great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Let's just jump right in. Maybe tell us the starting story of your experience marketing online.
Yeah. So I guess it was pre-marketing online, really. We got started, my wife and I had an idea back in 2006, and it came to fruition around 2009. And it was a training club, the Tour Striker. That's why the brand is called Tour Striker, because everything's a spinoff of that. And it was interesting. So what I knew back then was pretty limited. Create a simple website, try to get a video online, have a way to capture a sale online. All that stuff back then was a little bit more interesting. And, the social media really hadn't kicked off back then as much. So there wasn't advertising on Instagram or Google, basically Meta. But, what I knew back then was I could market through vlogs. I could get on golfer vlogs and basically jump into those spaces where a lot of, addicted golfers would go seek information, and I could sort of seed in some thoughts as a unknown coach back then, to be honest. I mean, I've been coaching for 40 years, but back then, I was a club pro guy. I played some professional golf after college. So the people that knew me as a coach were my members. It wasn't like I was a well-known coach back then. So I just kind of seeded my ideas through getting in front of like-minded people in vlogs. And then that grew into kind of an email database kind of marketing, where we met some marketers that helped with, hey, we've got a big list of golf, marketers, and we can market to these golf people. And then there was a negotiated payment for that ability. And then things started to kick off. And then from there, the product was good. So we did a full-scale infomercial back when infomercials were a huge deal. And then marketing there was a lot of 1-800 numbers. You would dial a golf-specific 1-800 number. And if you rung through with our number, Tour Striker's number, the person answering the phone would be answering the phone for all kinds of golf companies. But if they called a certain number, they'd be, oh, that's Tour Striker's number. Tour Striker, may I help you? And then the person would say, oh, I'm calling about the Tour Striker Training Club. Well, of course, blah, blah, blah. And then you'd go on to make the offer and then back up the offer with our protocol video, training videos that we had. And that's how things really kind of got to tumbling for us sales-wise. Originally was full-scale infomercial, throwing a lot of money at the golf channel and, having that marketing efficiency ratio.
So that leads to a whole bunch of questions. The first thing that occurs to me is isn't the golf space crowded, competitive, busy with all kinds of products to help with your stroke and your swing? And isn't there just a ton of people in that space already?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously when you said the origin story kind of thing, I'm giving you the, way back when it was a little different. Nowadays it's massively full. And then not only that, it's massively full with knockoffs. They're so brazen now. There's so many knockoff companies that go, oh, there's a product. Okay, well, wow, okay, that product's showing some promise. They knock it off immediately and sell it into the United States market and market against, the the actual patented product. I mean, it's the business is not for sissies. I'll tell you what, because it is a very competitive thing, and nowadays it's gone. It went from like a basic website to um, email campaigns, some TV ads, which you rarely see anymore. You see a few, to hoping you could get some momentum in a YouTube channel, and then paying for some placement or some exposure on YouTube. And then obviously Facebook became the monster in that whole thing. And so I'll tell you what, it's sort of about, how much can you pay for? What can you pay for to trump your competitor so that there's still some margin left in the end between what your product costs you to have created and landed after taxes, tariffs, duties, etc. And then, that marketing piece, and then still make a margin. So, I mean, that's really the kind of the secret sauce of it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the infomercial space a little bit, because I don't see many people that have done that successfully.
Mm-hmm.
How did you pick that as a channel? How long did you have to work it to get it to pay for itself? How was that experience?
Well, we went to it was 2009 PGA show. That was kind of our, introduction to the golf world with the product originally. And so that's kind of a cool space because as a PGA member, I can pay for a booth and I can say, hey, here's my widget. And PGA members walk by and they're, interested, and then they can buy one if they want one. And luckily in 2009, the product was a pretty good hit at the PGA show. A lot of people bought the product to, cash and carry, walk out of there. And so we were pretty excited about that. And then a golf marketing agency, saw that we had success with it. And they put together a program where we shared in the revenue and the expenses of it all. And they'd had some experience in doing many, many golf infomercials on the Golf Channel. And so we shot a full half an hour episode, in a half an hour episodes, 3 8-minute segments surrounded by the commercials that, the Golf Channel is going to, put between the 8-minute segments. And it was a smash. I mean, it was a smashing success. That infomercial ran on the Golf Channel for over a year. So, the Golf Channel would say to you, or, you would bid, you would say, we want Wednesday afternoon at 2:00. And they would give you a price. And if you didn't like the price, then maybe you could take Wednesday at 2 a.m. Where we did buy that, we bought that time slot a lot, and it was inexpensive because that's when everybody's asleep. But you got your people that are, can't go to bed, and they're up there and they're like watching some golf infomercial that's kind of catchy. Gary McCord back then was my spokesman, and he was a, handlebar mustache Gary, very fun guy, and he did a fantastic job. And then, the phone kept ringing and the internet, the website kept getting hits, and, we kept selling products. And there comes a time when, what you make and what you spend, like originally what we made and what we spent was this, nice margin here. And then it slowly does this. And then eventually it stops making you money. And then that's when, you've kind of squeezed all the, all the blood out of the stone. And then, after that, it went to like full scale email marketing. It was a group called Revolution Golf, a marketing company that a guy named Justin Tupper started. Gosh, I forget the year. I want to say 2010 maybe. And he reached out to me, and it was a massive, massive break for me because he said, hey, I think, the Golf Channel you may have ceased to create a buzz in that market, but I know that we can email direct to customers and we can tell the story. And I really think we can kind of continue the sales of this product. And he was right. It was a little different way of marketing. They marketed me as a coach. So he had me go to San Luis Obispo, and, I had a little camera crew there, and I did probably 30 golf tips for him, in like a morning, like 9 a.m. to noon kind of thing, off the cuff, just common stuff like how to fix a slice and what happens if you're chunking it and different things golfers are intrigued to learn and refine themselves. And so that way of endearing yourself to the audience as a coach lends that credibility to, well, hey, if I like that coach, then I'll consider that product. And that's kind of how, we've marketed ever since. It's like, endearment, trust, sale. And then obviously you got to back it up with a decent product because you lose trust right away if the product sucks. So,
Yeah. So, how long did you go with your lead product, and when did you start to decide to add new things in, and how much have you added in that you built yourself, and how much did
yeah,
you partner with
yeah.
others?
So the first, I've been kind of inventive for my whole life. I had a product thought when I was like 19, but I didn't have the capital or know how to get it done. So with the support of my wife, and taking a lot of risk, we put the Tour Striker Training Club, and I should have one around here somewhere, but basically it's a redesigned club head that is actually harder to hit than a normal golf club, but it sort of gets you thinking about how a club gets delivered to a golf ball. So that was, my first patent, and I'd say that ran for a good solid year and a half. And then I had another just thought about something that taught risk conditions. That was called the Educator, and we're on version 2.0 of that right now, and that's done nicely over the years. That was a second patent. And then the third patent is probably my most famous product, is just what we call the Smart Ball. And it basically a little inflatable beach ball that has a lanyard, and then it hangs from your neck. And that thing's been unbelievable for years. Like I'd say if you go to any tour range any day, whether it's LPGA Tour or PGA Tour, you're going to see, the best players in the world warm up a little bit with that thing around their neck, between their forearms, kind of getting a sense of body motion, rhythm, and timing, and refining or familiarizing themselves with that motion so that their elbows don't get too crazy and their wrist conditions don't get too crazy. And that's another patent. And I've had a variety of things that have gone on to, be successful after that. And a lot of failures too, like a lot of learning curve and blunders and, having too much inventory, not having enough inventory, overspending for media, I just say fall forward. You make mistakes and you keep on trying to learn from them and you move along.
Yeah. Would you say that your entrepreneurial characteristics have changed over the years, or have you strayed not too far from your original roots, like in risk taking and problem solving and marketing?
I'd say that, like in my case, it's a team. My wife and I, she runs the website and the warehouse, and I spend most of my time just coaching golf. And then on a day like today, when I'll book it, like I'm off today, and I'm never really off. I'm always doing stuff. Like this is work because I'm talking to a nice fella, and this is exposure to wherever this leads, it leads to. And, so a day like today, I'll continue on a prototype of something. I'll talk to my model maker. I will, I've always got a few things in the hopper that may develop or may just run flat. So, I'm always thinking I coach so much that I see so many of the same challenge with developing golfers, that to inspire change, to have an external feedback device tends to be faster in this adult kind of age group. Kids are beautiful because they play, they're playful, they get in a little posse, hopefully there's 8 or 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever. And they have a caring coach, and they kind of all grow because one kid kind of gets better and they all seek to be that kid, and they work hard, and maybe some kids 2 years older, and there's just through play and development, there's improvement. But adults are, they're kind of stuck in their ways. And so they usually go down the wrong rabbit hole. But if you can get like an external feedback mechanism on them, and it's tactile and it's, maybe auditory, and then they can't refute the feelings. And so I find that adults will lend themselves to development through these kind of feedback mechanisms because they don't have time to be the playful kid goofing off and failing and successful and failing and moving along and skinning their knee and doing it anyway. Whereas in adults, like they work 40 hours or 60 hours a week, they got commitments, they still find a love for the game of golf. They want to get better at it. They suck and they want to fix their slice. Well, is it like I'm holding a grip trainer? Is it a grip trainer that changes how they finally put their hands in the club? Is it one of my smart balls that goes between your forearms? Is it one of my gizmos that inspires thoughtful change to where they finally push through and get out of their own way to kind of develop themselves? to whether it's playful, external feedback, just who knows? Who knows what the trigger is going to be? A back and forth with a coach. I always say, like, you look like my perfect golf student, by the way. That you're the person who shows up at my camp. And one of my first things is I say, the problem coaching you guys is that you're no longer pliable and no longer playful. So I try to create a playful, pliable environment. The music goes on. I tease the living crap out of you. Most of the time, somebody plays golf for 20 years, they never get any good because they're always kind of a lifelong beginner. Nobody's really kicked their ass to get their hands on the right way or to walk into a golf ball the right way. And you all think you know everything is the problem. Adults think they're smart, and they are in their little narrow window of what they do, but they're not smart when it comes to learning a playful game like golf and the bazillion different possibilities and outcomes you can have in the game of golf. So, when a coach calls out a guy who's a successful, like I've had billionaires that you would recognize their name come to my golf school, and I treat them like they're just a 14-year-old, and they get a kick out of it actually, because they're like, wow, okay, this coach is giving me because I'm really not doing what he's asking me to do. It's like their wealth, supersedes the insight they get from a coach, and it's comical. And they're like, okay, I get it. I'll do it. And then finally, like, hey, I'm actually getting better because I'm doing something more prone to success than, being, Einstein's famous quote of insanity, expect a different result, do the same thing. Well, that's what golfers do. They do the same thing. They expect a different result. Well, guess what? You got to do something different. Different is usually mildly uncomfortable, maybe not physically, just it doesn't mesh up yet. And so I say, just fail. I don't care if you hit good shots. I really don't. I just want to see you do what you're doing nicely now. Stuff will start to come together, whether it's with a training aid or not. And let's see you flourish from being playful. Miss on purpose. Hit it on the toe on purpose. Hit it on the heel on purpose. Top it on purpose. Chunk it on purpose. Hit it skinny on purpose. If you can do all those things, getting to the middle of the face is like, oh, I can do everything around getting to the middle of the face. If I can do that, I can get to the middle of the face more often. So again, there's a playful way to develop your skill. But that's not what adults want to hear. They want to hear, okay, if I just get my left wrist perfect every single time, I'm going to hit every shot perfect. No, you're not. Because golf is a dance. It's a rhythm. It's emotional. That's why it's a great game. Every day you wake up, you're different. And then you've got to relate to your different self with the tools in your golf bag and the environment you got to play on. And you got like Gary Woodland won. I don't know when you're going to play this podcast, but Gary Woodland won yesterday. Okay.
I saw that.
His caddy is one of my best friends, lifelong buddy. I met his caddy at a junior tournament and we became best buds like early on. He came up to me. He goes to me, what'd you shoot? And I said, I shot 80. And I'm like 11. He goes, oh, okay, darn it. You beat me by 1. And then that was like the start of a lifelong friendship. And we've been competitors and best buddies and even college roommates. And so accidentally, he started caddying on tour for Mike Weir. And then they, went on to do great things and won the Masters. And then, rather than go play himself, he's a very capable, excellent player, Brendan Little, he, got into caddying just because he was making a ton of money as a caddy, like many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, carrying a bag around for 28 to 30 weeks a year. And it's hard to go back to the grind of playing when you have a successful career around the game, like I do now as a coach and as a inventor. But, to see those guys, they haven't had a win since 2019. And Gary's been through it because he had a tumor he had removed. Brennan's been through it with some personal things. And to see both those guys overcome those things and, as a team get through 4 days of the Texas Open pretty dominantly and win like that yesterday, it was a pretty cool one. Like that one, that'll be one of the cooler events of the season, if not the decade.
Yeah. Well, so then to translate that into business terms,
yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you've faced that you didn't really expect in the last couple of years, marketing your business?
You know what? Marketing my business, I didn't expect as much competitive knockoffs from overseas, in fairness. So that's a big deal. As far as the marketing piece, I feel like I'm pretty lucky because I had so much exposure online as a golf coach that I have my own big database now, my own big email database. I have a pretty good social media following. If I was starting today from ground zero, just some guy with a good idea, that would be tricky because that if I was that guy from ground zero, I'd have to go to find a guy like me and say, "Hey, I've got this great idea." And because I get that call all the time. And I'll tell the person, I'll say, "Hey, listen, I don't want to talk about your idea unless you've got it patented because I'm working on all kinds of ideas and I don't want to have any kind of contentious situation. If you're working on something, it's golf. We're probably working on something for your wrist, something for your arms, something for your whatever it is, probably all sort of similar." And so if they have a protected idea, then I'll say to them, I'll say the first few things would be this: what is the cost value proposition of your product? In other words, this grip, okay, the common training grip. This grip is made from a company called Tacky Mac. It probably costs them $1 to make this. Okay, let's just call it $1. I think they sell it for $15. So there's a 15-to-1 situation. Now, I happen to know the mold that makes this. They make probably 12 of them at a time in this circular metal machined thing. And that's probably 20 grand to make that. Okay. So that, you start going, wow, okay, 20 grand's a lot. Do I really want to risk 20 grand to make this? Who will buy this? Right. So I always ask the person who calls me, I go, what's your cost value proposition? And they say, well, I know I can make it for $50 and sell it for 100. And then I'll say, stop. Okay. That's not going to work. And they'll be like, why? There's $50 margin in there. I'm like, okay, well, it's probably going to cost you $50 to sell one of them. And now you've made zero money. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I say, well, guess what? How are people going to find out about this thing? Well, I'm going to, I'll hire you to put it out there. Well, I don't do it for free. If I'm going to show my customers your product, that's great. But I'm going to charge you a fee for that. And then, you're going to pay per click for people to kind of go and look at this thing. And your pay per click might be $6, $7, $10 a click. And so now if you paid 50 and you get $10 a click, oh, by the way, where are you storing these things? Are they all going to be in your garage, or do you have a 3PL, third party logistic place charging you rent to store these? So we'll go through the whole dialogue of, how a product, I don't care how good an idea it is, does it have a cost value proposition to the consumer to where it kind of makes sense? And so, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I'll tell somebody, like, if it's not a 6-to-1 relationship or 10-to-1 or 15-to-1, like one of these things, it's, make one for yourself as a novelty. Or, because those things like let's call it a toaster, right? Like you have one, I have a toaster, right? We go buy a nice toaster, it's $29. Right? And there's very little margin in the toaster. But the thing about the toaster is they've got a pre-order for 2 million of them. So there's a pre-order guaranteed purchase of 2 million toasters from all these different big box stores, or Amazon's going to, buy 500,000 toasters. And so there's a couple dollars profit in that. Well, if you got a pre-order for that many, guess what? You don't need much margin in there to make it make sense. But when you're going to sell like basically a hope, that's what I call my training aids. I'm selling hope. You got to show hope, and then you got to be able to have the margin to support your hope. So there's got to be a cost value proposition between what you pay to have these widgets landed, and then enough buffer in there to market the widgets, support the widgets in a warehouse, have somebody put them in ship them in a box. Oh, have somebody answer a phone and, answer questions about the widget, and then maybe take the widget back if the customer's unhappy and refund the customer. Right. So it's not a get rich thing. It's more of a sensible, can I sell enough widgets, support the expense, and do I have it priced correctly that I can make a few bucks in the end? So I don't know where I went with that, but that's kind of where I'm going.
Do you find that leads to a discussion ever about lifetime value of customer and customer reorder rates and stuff like that?
Oh, 100%. I got to be honest with you. Like, sometimes people make me grumpy, and it's fascinating. The modern modern times, everybody's like a keyboard warrior. And like, we use Meta quite a lot. And so stuff will go on Instagram and stuff will go on Facebook. And then, people will chime in. Well, that's a horse rubbish and blah, 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 blah. And so you get these, immediate comments about things. And sometimes, a customer, they'll buy it and they'll be so mean. It's hard to be nice to them. Like it really is. And you sort of have to be. And I got to bite my tongue sometimes because I'm not mean. If I had a problem with a product, I'd call customer service and say, the product didn't work out. Maybe there's a problem with it, and I would expect the person to be civil on the other end, and I would hope to have a resolution. But you'd be amazed how many customers, I'm a small percentage, but still it's kind of shocking. They're immediately just rude, and then you got to be like, oh, okay, we'll take great care of you. Sorry, we're so sorry for your inconvenience. In the back, I'm like, but you got to keep a smiley face, because I'll tell you what, you can have one. I forget who said it best. The guy who did Ritz-Carlton. He's actually on a podcast recently, and he goes, you piss off one customer, they can be like a jihadist to your business. Like they can make it their personal mission to bury you, and it becomes like a hobby to them to just absolutely bury you. And today in social media, guess what? They get to sit there on their phone and make fun of being that contentious person because maybe you were less than perfect in their customer service situation, right?
Yeah.
So nowadays, it's almost like you have to have an AI that is like tuned to be so pleasantly perfect, not human even, to tolerate how people's behavior can be comical.
Yeah. Well, and you're right about the jihadists, because we've been in business 19 years as an agency. We've had over 300 clients. We've had 2 that have made it their mission in life to voice their opinion,
right,
on what their experience was, and they were unreasonable at the same time. Like
they always are. They always are. It's never about reason. It's never about reason. It's about, and that's a shame really. But hey, you know what? Most people see through that. Most people look, that's why like when you look at reviews, you're like, oh, the reviews are weighted very heavily to the positive. And then people always like to look at the 1s and 2s and go, okay, that person with the 1s, unreasonable. At least that's how I look at reviews. I always kind of look and go, the general reviews are very good. Oh, why are there some 1s? Oh gosh, that person. Some reviews aren't. I remember one time in my golf camp's got like 300 5-star reviews and a couple that aren't 5-star, of all the reviews I've got. And then one was just, I found the hike to be too difficult. The terrain was rocky and the grade wasn't as advertised. So somebody went on my golf camp and added a review about some hike, not even applicable to my situation. And it took like Google 6 months to remove it after I had to remind them many times, like, hey, this isn't even about golf. It's about some lady's experience on a hike, So,
yeah,
but
definitely
whatever.
not you.
No.
So in terms of for other entrepreneurs, maybe in your size situation, what's a couple of pieces of advice that you would give them to have them think about if they were launching in a competitive market or, trying to grow in this market?
Yeah. So, I do this. People call me all the time and I'm happy to talk to people. I say my car is like my office hours because I have like 20, 25 minutes in my commute. So I don't mind talking to people I don't know in my car. But, I would say to them again, the cost value proposition of your thought. I look at a product and ask yourself, what would people pay? Like, what is that solution worth to them? Is it $100? Is it $200? Is it $1,000? So look at the cost value proposition. And so that's how the product should be kind of based. What do they really get for their money? And is it worth $200 for this solution? And if it is worth $200, hopefully you can make it for $20. And then people always think you're greedy. Oh, well, I could, obviously that's just a piece of plastic, but blah, blah, blah. But it's never that. Okay. Yeah, sure. They don't realize the steps it takes to get to where that is a product that's something you can ship to them in a couple of days. right? So typically I would say surround your product with supplementary benefit, like supplemental benefit, like video protocols that explain the development you will have with said product. This is how you start as a rookie. This is how you develop when you get intermediate. This is how you use it when you're more refined. And so I always say with my products, I'm not selling the product. The product is supplemental to the instruction. And so to me, like I charge a lot for an hourly lesson and I'm booked, sold out for the season. And yet, people will look at one of my products and go, well, man, that's expensive. But yet an hour with me is way more money than that. Yet when they buy a product, they get the product and they get this long, simple, step-by-step process of development. So to me, it's like, yeah, you can come to me and I can kind of bear wrestle you into submission and get you where I need you as a golfer. And a lot of people like that because I'm that way too. I'm going to go to the gym later and I've got a trainer because I just can't push myself near as hard as a trainer will sort of organize for me. And I will push myself. So, you're just kind of finding what you feel that people out there will pay for it. And then can you make it with a reasonable margin so that you can market for it, you can support it, the customer service, all the things that go between the landed cost and your retail cost. And hopefully there's a little money left over for you in the end.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's excellent orientation. Martin, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciated talking with you.
You know what? It's always fun talking about stuff like this, and these conversations go by in a flash.
Yeah, true. That was quick. It seemed quick.
Right? That's always good.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. Have a good day.
Hey, see you, Mitch.
I hope you enjoyed that and found some information in there that is actionable and helps you to grow your business. As you may or may not know, it's in marketing. We've been doing email marketing for companies for 18 years now. And we know a thing or two because we've learned a thing or two. But I want to make you an offer. The first thing we do when we take on a new e-commerce client is to build out their welcome series. It's not flashy, but it is consistently one of the largest revenue generators of all the flows that we install. And most brands don't have a good one. So if you feel like you might not have a good one, I want to give you a head start. Send me your site. Just send me an email to mitch@zinmarketing.com. And I'm about a custom welcome series flow for your brand. The flow, the angles, all the copy that you use. Basically enough material to basically make it live. Free money, if you will. Just done for you. No strings attached. I'll send everything back via email. Send an email to mitch@zinmarketing.com. Free welcome flow.